Hello everyone, welcome to another video that is slightly unrelated to what I usually do. I usually do more sort of art and book content, but this time I want to talk about starting ballet in my 20s. So I know that ballet is kind of a popular aesthetic and topic in general at the moment, and I want to tell you about my experience and hopefully encourage you to start ballet classes or to keep going if you've already started. So I never really took any dancing classes up until the age of 13. It's very interesting to see how your parents and your environment shape who you are and what you do. So my mum played the guitar when she was a kid, so she sent me to music classes. I learned to play the soprano recorder, the alto recorder, and then the piano, and I'm not complaining. It's just interesting to see how these things shape and influence you. So, as I said before, the first dance class I took was when I was 13 with my friends, but I didn't do ballet, I did hip hop. And it was really fun, you know, going out with my friends was just such a fun activity and we enjoyed it very much, but we never really progressed. We always stayed in this one beginner's class and didn't end up continuing, but switching to ballroom dancing. This was when I was about 15 and it was really popular at the time. I remember all of my classmates going to ballroom dancing classes, and so we went too, and again we had a really great time. It was so much fun learning to waltz and all of these other dances like cha-cha. And so around the same time I started watching Dance Academy and I absolutely loved it. If you don't know Dance Academy, it's a TV series for teens. It's about this group of friends who attend a dance academy in Australia, Sydney, and they want to become professionals. And so watching this TV series at the age of like 15, really made me want to go to ballet classes, and so I tried to find a ballet school that would offer classes for people my age and starting ballet, but I couldn't really find one. I took a few classes with the teacher, but she said I'd have to find some friends so that she could create a new class, but I couldn't find any friends who'd join me and I couldn't afford private tutoring, so I kind of gave up. And so yeah, time just flew by. I'm still just in ballet. I rewatched Dance Academy quite a few times. It really is one of my comfort shows now, I have to say. It's very nostalgic in a way. I still had this desire to dance, and my best friend's mum, she's been doing ballet for about 10 or maybe even 15 years now, and so she encouraged me and she talked to me quite a few times until I decided last year to go to my first adult beginners class, and I really enjoyed it, and so I started last year at the age of 25. So now let me talk to you about the experience and what you can expect from adult ballet and what you do as a beginner. So first of all, you kind of learn about the 5 positions in ballet. You have 5 positions of the feet and 5 different positions to the arms that you can combine in, I think, kind of any way you want. Don't take me literally on this, I'm not a professional. But yeah, so you learn about those 5 basic positions, and then you do a lot of work on the bar, which means that you always can hold on to the bar while doing exercises, which is really helpful because you guys, ballet is so hard. I mean, I kind of knew and I kind of gathered that it is really hard from the documentaries and TV series that I've watched. It was quite obvious that they put a lot of work and effort into their art, which is impressive really. But so work at the bar really helps you to focus on the movements, and you do things like pliés, tendus, fondus, rond de jambe, and as you can tell, all of these terms are French, which is lucky for me because I am half French, so it is my native language and I can more easily remember the terms than other participants in my class. But I also like to write things down in my notebook, so I try to remember the terms, and coming home from class I write them down, or also some like combinations of steps and things. So you work at the bar and it's sort of a warm-up, though as a beginner it really is super hard and a really tough workout actually. And then you go to the centre, which means you go away from the bar, you have nowhere to hold on to, which is quite hard depending on what you do. You really need a lot of balance and strength to do ballet. At the centre you'll do adagio, which is a term you may know from music, so it's really slow paced and controlled. You do jumps and different combinations of steps. I really do enjoy it. It's so much fun to move your body to the music, and it really is such great exercise. You need, as I said, so much strength, stability. You really need to focus. It also is something that allows you to be connected to your body so much, and also to stay in the present moment. It really forces you to be there. You can't run away with your thoughts, which is really helpful for someone who's a chronic overthinker like me. And honestly, really, I even think that, especially the work at the bar in the beginning of the class, is rather meditative. You do a repetition of steps and you do them almost every single time, so it really has this meditative quality to it as well, which is really nice. And so what I've learned so far is that, as I said, ballet is really hard, but it also is such a great way to see what your body can do and what you can achieve and how you can progress. And one video I'd really like to recommend that I was recommended on YouTube in just about roughly around the time when I started ballet class, was one by Tatiana, and she started ballet in her 30s, and it was so encouraging to hear her thoughts and experience about starting ballet that late, which, you know, in my ballet class there are people who are in their 50s and only just starting, and this is so encouraging, and they're all so nice. I really love my dance class, my dance school. They're all so kind, and we all just encouraging each other, and we're there to have fun and to dance and to move our bodies to the music that I absolutely love. I love classical music, so it kind of is an interesting link to what I said before, because I was more sort of educated in music and going to music lessons from the age of like 4, so there's still a connection to ballet in a way. And so, as I said, the lessons I've learned so far is really that it will take time. I think it really will teach me patience, because it just is so difficult. It needs a lot of, again, strength and flexibility, and you can't just achieve that in a couple of months or a year. You'll have to stay focused and motivated. I realise it's going to take me quite some time and effort and training to maybe one day perform with my dance school. It's a dream of mine. It may come true one day, but first I realised that I'd have to exercise. So this leads me to the next part of this video, which is about fitness. So ballet turned out to be the one thing that actually keeps me going when it comes to working out and exercising. I was never really a sports person. I never really exercised before doing ballet. I once had an accident where I had to recover from a very serious shoulder injury, so this was the only time where I was like going to physio and doing exercises, and I did that for the time I needed to recover, and then I kind of let it go again. And apart from yoga, I never really did any other exercise. I mean, I like to go for walks and I like to hike a bit, not like 30 kilometers, don't get me wrong, but like I like to go for walks in nature. But I also realised that it would be helpful to exercise a little more, especially because I had rather a lot of tension around the neck and shoulders, and so I went to physiotherapy again in the beginning of this year. So I'd already started ballet class, and realising that the exercises I was doing with my physio helped my dancing is what kept me going. So what I basically do now is that I exercise at home, because I'm more of an introvert, and I have tried to go to the gym in the past, but I never really liked it. It sort of felt weird and I was uncomfortable, so I never really got started. But going to the physio and doing some exercises with her just helped me realise that I could very easily do things at home, just using TheraBands, resistance bands, a balance pad and my yoga mat. So what I do at home is basically an hour of strengthening my back through exercise with my TheraBand. I also like to do exercises for my legs because you realise in ballet you need so much strength in your legs. So I use resistance bands to work out my legs, and there are so many different things you can do there, so I kind of try to change it up a bit so I don't get bored of just doing the same exercises over and over and over again. And you can also use a balance pad to change things up a bit. It's also great to improve your balance. Of course, you can also do very sort of standard basic things like a plank or sit-ups, which will strengthen your core, which is also very, very important. My dance teacher always says, you know, the strength comes from the core. You really have to be strong to stand tall and keep the posture as well. I also want to say that, of course, I'm not a professional. Maybe you can find a physiotherapist to do some exercises, and or maybe go to a class at the gym just to learn a few things that you could do at home. Or of course you can search the internet for resources. There are pages on Instagram, like for example Veronica K platform that I like to follow, and I also recently found a YouTube playlist from Glamour, who interviewed the ballerina Scout Forsyth. I'm not quite sure I'm pronouncing her name right, but she's basically showing her favourite exercises and stretching exercises as well, so that is really inspirational. And also, of course, there's Pinterest. So over the last couple of years, even before starting ballet, I basically collected all sorts of ideas for exercises and ballet outfits, and also just beautiful photographs of dancers, which, you know, they look so elegant and graceful. It's just very inspirational. So in addition to doing all of these strengthening exercises and also a bit of stretching, of course, after exercising, I try to do a bit of ballet at home, which is quite hard because I do not have that much space. But even just doing a bit of like relevés and tendus, fondus, or rond de jambes and pliés, which really strengthen your calves as well. The last resource I want to mention here is Misty Copeland's book Ballerina Body, and she basically talks about not only, of course, exercising and ballet moves that you can do at home to improve your strength and balance and flexibility, but also about body image and mindset, which is really interesting. Then there's also recipes, so it's an interesting book that I like to look into from now and then and see which kind of ballet moves I could do to improve my technique. And this leads me to books. So as I said before, I've been interested in ballet for quite some time. So a couple of years ago I read Misty Copeland's biography Life in Motion, which was so interesting and eye-opening. It's basically her story about how she discovers ballet at the age of 13, which is really, really late for a professional ballerina, but still she keeps going. She discovers her love for ballet, and her teacher discovers that she's really talented, so she participates at dance classes and summer intensives and competitions, and finally in the end makes it in the ballet world. Although also as an African American ballet dancer, she has many more prejudices and obstacles in her way, and it is such an eye-opening educational book. I really highly recommend it if you are interested in ballet. It is so inspirational and encouraging to see how she makes her way in this world that is, or can be, very brutal and hard at times. I also recently got a book in a very cute bookstore in France, which was, I think, intentionally addressed to children, but it definitely spoke to me. When I saw it on the shelf, I couldn't resist. It is Contes des plus grands ballets, which basically tells the stories of the different very famous ballets like the Nutcracker or Giselle, and it is beautifully illustrated. It has also some background information on the theatres and the production of those ballets, and I think it's really interesting to know a bit of the stories that inspired these very famous ballets, like for example the Nutcracker, which is based on a story by E.T.A. Hoffmann. And Nutcracker actually is a story that I've loved ever since I was a kid. I've had this cassette, Der Nussknacker, which tells a story and also at the same time plays the music from Tchaikovsky, and so I've always loved that story, and a couple of years ago, got the book from a friend of mine for my birthday, and I really want to read it now because it's been sitting on my bookshelf for quite some time. It's also beautifully illustrated, so this is an example for me that ballet is related to so many other arts and interests for me, to music, to literature, and it makes it for me so much more interesting to discover all things related to ballet and to connect these different interests. The last book I want to mention is one that I recently finished, which is Hope in a Ballet Shoe by Michaela de Prince and her mother Elaine de Prince, who helped her write this book. And so it's about the ballerina Michaela de Prince, who was born in the mid-90s in Sierra Leone during the Civil War, and sadly loses her parents to the war and famine, and so becomes an orphan and experiences a lot of violence and abuse. It is very hard. The first couple of chapters are very heartbreaking. But one day she finds this magazine, or the cover of the magazine, with a ballerina in a pink tutu on it, and this is what gives her hope throughout these very hard times. And finally she's adopted by an American family and is able to start ballet classes, and this is the point where it all starts. She takes it more and more seriously, and her parents support her, so she's changing ballet and dance schools quite a few times. She participates at competitions like the American Grand Prix, which leads me to the final category of this video, which is films. So Michaela Prince, through all of her training and the dance classes she attends, makes it into the competition, the American Grand Prix, which takes place, I believe, every year. And so the film First Position follows her and a few other ballet dancers in different age categories during this competition, during the semi-finals and the finals. And it is very insightful and interesting to see how these very young dancers live, how they train, how they just combine everything. Their everyday lives is centred around ballet, and how much they have to give up in order to pursue their dreams. Yeah, a really interesting film if you'd like to know more about this very famous competition and the life of young dancers who aspire to become professionals. When it comes to documentaries, I also highly recommend Arte, which is a German and French channel which has a lot of documentaries on ballet, and the ones that I watched so far was about the ballet students of the Opéra de Paris, which was very interesting, again showing how young dancers pursue their dream of becoming professionals. It is similarly to First Position, following them throughout their everyday lives and classes, so I highly recommend that. They also have a lot of other documentaries and performances on there. And there are two more films that I just quickly want to mention because I haven't seen them yet, but I recently borrowed them from my local library. Very old school, I know, but these are films that are not available on Netflix. So it is L'Opéra de Paris, which is a documentary about the opera house in Paris and following all the artists and the backstage work for I think 1 or 1.5 years, and then another one set in the opera house in Paris, which is Relève, and shows the work of the choreographer Benjamin Millepied. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. And then of course there are performances that you can watch on YouTube. There are sequences of performances on, for example, the Royal Opera House YouTube channel, and I've seen quite a few now, especially from the Nutcracker, because this is my favourite story. And so I got the DVD from Georges Balanchine's The Nutcracker from the New York City Ballet to finally watch the entire performance. I also recently watched the biographical film about Nureyev, who was one of the most famous ballet dancers of the 20th century. And it is more sort of about his life and historical context of him living in the Soviet Union and coming to Paris with his company and seeking political asylum in France. It is very sort of intense and dramatic as well, Of course there's also lots of dancing, but I feel like it's also more sort of a historical film in a way. And last but not least, I want to mention Dance Academy because it is the TV series that as a teen got me interested in ballet and made me want to get started, which, well, took some time, about 10 years, but you know, life just turns out the way it does and it's okay. I still hopefully have a lifetime of dancing ahead of me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you could find some encouragement to start ballet as well. If you've been hesitating, please go. It is such a great way to move your body. Please let me know what your experience is when it comes to dancing in the comment section down below. I'd really love to hear about it, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.